Good morning and welcome to SentencingStats.com. This is Mark Allenbaugh. It is November 7, 2017, and it is Election Day, so hopefully everyone gets out to vote. In today's episode, because it's Election Day, we are covering Senator Bob Menendez's trial. Right now, the jury literally is out. And we should expect a verdict sometime within the next week, I would imagine. It could be as early as today. So assuming he is convicted, we are going to do an analysis of his likely sentence, or probably a better way of saying it is what the statistics show his sentence may be. So here's the indictment. For those of you who haven't seen it before, he's charged with a lot of counts. 22 counts there. I'm not sure if any have been dismissed over the course of his trial, but assuming that they have not, or he is unable to convince the judge for a directed verdict on any of them, this is what his statutory maximum penalty would be, about 330 years. Assuming I did all of this correctly, so you can see the counts there, and also assuming that he is convicted on all these counts. The jury very well may come back and acquit him on some of these counts, or hang on some of them. But assuming he is convicted on all of these counts, his total statutory maximum penalty will be 330 years, and of course he's not going to get anywhere close to that. But one of the things to consider is age. I've discussed this before. It's very important for clients that are over 45, 50, that are facing significant sentences to consider arguing life expectancy to a judge facing sentencing. And the reason being is even what would be a rather short sentence, or a relatively short sentence, say 5 or 6 years, for a younger person obviously could be a de facto life sentence for somebody who is older. And Senator Menendez is 63 years of age and 10 months as of today. His birthday is on January 1. He has an additional life expectancy of 20.2 years, and this is just all estimated off the Social Security website. But based on that, and I've mentioned this before, there has been recent studies, or a recent study that suggests that for each year served in prison, a person is expected to lose 2 years off of their life expectancy. So based on that, if we look at Senator Menendez today, as we noted, is 63.8, assuming he's sentenced today or within the next year or so, this obviously he's going to age every year. He's going to get a year older for every year he lives. But his life expectancy, of course, is going to decrease not by 1 year, but by 2 years for every year that he's in prison. So assuming that he's imprisoned within the next year or so, if he is sentenced essentially to anything more than 7 years, or he's in prison 7 years from now, he will die in prison, at least statistically speaking. So any sentence over 7 years is literally pointless, because it does not serve any purpose. He'll be dead, at least, again, statistically speaking. But nonetheless, statistics do mean something at this level, and prison has been demonstrated to have a deleterious effect on life expectancy, and also there have been recent studies by the government, the federal government, indicating that the Bureau of Prisons cannot or is inadequately staffed and does not have the resources to take care of older inmates, and that could be a problem, of course. So Senator Menendez and his counsel would be wise, I would suggest, if he is convicted, to bring this up at sentencing, that again, any sentence over 7 years would be a de facto life sentence. So what is he looking at under the guidelines? This is just a very rough estimate. Of course, I do not know all the details. Even the jurors do not know all the details of what would be relevant at sentencing, something called relevant conduct. that is not introduced during the trial, although a lot of it can be gleaned from the trial. There may be many other things that are otherwise inadmissible at trial that can come in at sentencing to affect a guidelines calculation. But based off of press reports, a brief review of the 50-something page indictment, this is my estimate of what his guideline calculation would be. He'd be sentenced under the bribery guideline, which is 2C1.1, which provides a base offense level of 14 for a public official. There appear to be multiple bribes in the case, so you get a bump of 2 for more than one bribe. Press reports indicate that the bribes amounted to approximately $750,000, which would increase his offense level by another 14 levels. Because he was a public official with high level of authority, he was a senator in the U.S. Congress, he would get another bump of 4. Yes, there would be an argument. I would certainly make the argument that because he's getting an increased base offense level and a +4, that there is some double counting there. But as we all know, unless the commission comes out and expressly says you can't double count, chances are your district court judge is not going to buy the argument. But nonetheless, an argument worth making. So he's certainly looking at, not certainly, but he is looking also at a bump of 4 for a public official with high level authority. Press reports indicate that he tried to, or he did facilitate his friends, his co-defendants' girlfriends getting into the country, getting visas for them, so he would face a bump of 2 there. He was charged with a conspiracy with his friend. I'm not sure if there are other unindicted co-conspirators, but nonetheless, just having that other friend and this being a conspiracy, he likely is also facing a bump of 2 for being an organizer of criminal activity. Because he went to trial, he's not going to get the acceptance of responsibility, which would reduce his offense level by 3. So that gives him a final offense level of 38, 235 to 293 months under the guidelines, or 19.6 to 24.4 years, which is substantially above the 7 years where we estimate that his life expectancy would be in prison. So let's look at the statistics. So here what I've done is gone onto our website, again, SentencingStats.com, the premier website for federal sentencing data and analyses. I just hopped on our website and typed in, entered this information. This is all under 2C1.1, the bribery statute, or the bribery guideline. Offense level 38, criminal history 1. I'm going to assume, and I'm sure it's a safe assumption, that Senator Menendez has no significant criminal history. That gives the guideline range here. Notice, however, there are not a lot of cases at this level, only 18, and that's covering 2006 through 2016. So all of your post-Booker universe, there's been only a total of 18 with this offense level, this criminal history under 2C1.1. I did, because there are so few, I did not I did not filter by disposition. In other words, I didn't filter, or by mode of conviction, whether they pled guilty or trial. So this includes trials and pleas, and there's obviously not many either way. The good thing, if there is a good thing, you can see that the average sentence and the median sentences here are well below the guidelines range. So judges are varying below that range, or there's a lot of 5Ks, or most of these were the result of 5Ks. Probably a mixture. I didn't investigate. But the bottom line is most individuals at his offense level are not getting the guide. As a matter of fact, 94.4% are getting below a guideline sentence. One person apparently did get the guideline max of 293, and the minimum sentence was as low as 37 months. So that's a very wide range, but the bulk of them are around this range. Nonetheless, still greater than the 7 years, so this may not be helpful to Senator Menendez. So what I did, though, is one thing that counsel can do with our site is, if the data, if there are not enough cases in your particular scenario, like here there was only 18, what you can do is take a look at the guideline overall and see where the bottom of the guideline range in your case may show up. And that's what I did here. So I looked at all 2C 1.1 cases, 2006 through 2016, regardless of criminal history and regardless of offense level and regardless of mode of conviction. So there have been a total of 3,012 nationwide that were sentenced under 2C 1.1. Again, including all offense levels, all criminal histories, all modes of conviction. There are 346 in the Third Circuit, 229 in New Jersey. A 235-month sentence, which would be at the bottom of Senator Menendez's estimated guideline range, is in the 99.5th percentile, meaning it's greater than 99.5% of all other sentences. That is significant. That is something I believe a judge, in this case Judge Walz out of the District of New Jersey, would be interested in knowing, that the guidelines in this case would be calling for a nearly unprecedented sentence in terms of its severity. So, and this graphically demonstrates that. We can see what the average sentence has been trending over time under 2C 1.1 as a whole, meaning regardless of offense level, regardless of criminal history, regardless of mode of conviction, including all of them. We could see that the average has been hovering around 24 months, just a couple of years, whereas a 235-month sentence is nearly off the charts for what Senator Menendez may be looking at. So the good thing that Senator Menendez could take away from the statistics here and take heart in, if you will, is the increased rate of downward variances. A downward variance is a judge exercising his or her discretion to sentence below the guideline range for any reason that they deem just. And here, about 31% of the time, at least last year in 2016, judges sentenced below the guideline range exercising their own discretion. That has come down a little bit, as we can see here, from 2014, but from 2006, post-Booker, you could see there has been a general trend upward. In other words, judges are increasingly varying downward under this guideline, which also can impact a judge's decision to depart downward. If a judge sees that other judges are doing this more frequently, then it may give a judge, in this case, more pause before imposing a guideline sentence, or more reason to vary downward. The reason why a judge would vary downward when judges are more frequently varying downward is to avoid unwarranted sentencing disparity. So, and when judges do go down, how far down are they going? And again, this is overall. This is including everybody sentenced under 2C 1.1, regardless of offense level, criminal history, or mode of conviction. By mode of conviction, I mean plea or trial. So we can see when judges did vary below the guideline range, they were only going about a year below the range, or 12 months below whatever the applicable range was on average. That significantly increased all the way up to 42 months, so about 3.5 years below the applicable guideline range. And that has decreased somewhat over the last few years, but still significant. So in 2016, on average, when judges did decide to depart below or vary below the guideline range under 2C 1.1, on average they went below about 25 months, so almost 2 years. So that's all of this gives, unfortunately, Senator Menendez is looking at a significant sentence, especially if my guideline calculation is correct, but even if it's off by a few or even more than a few offense levels, he's still looking at a very significant sentence. The good thing is that even at an offense level 38, the average sentence is still well below, over 100 months below the bottom of the guideline range. But still a 115-month sentence, or basically anything 7 years and over, as we've discussed, is going to be a life sentence for him. My guess, a home run in this case, assuming again he's convicted, would be a sentence, a nominal sentence of just a few years. Because even at, let's say, a 3-year sentence here, he would be in his mid to late 60s, arguably, once he got out of prison. But that's only going to leave him maybe 10 years of life left, because it's going to have a significant reduction on his life expectancy, at least according to that Patterson study I cited. So I think a sentence of 3 years or less here would certainly be a home run for him and his defense team, should he be convicted. Anything close to 7 years or above, unfortunately, Senator Menendez will be spending the rest of his life in prison. So let's watch, see what happens today, and remember, go out and vote, and we will see you next time. Thank you.